Before we dive into today's story, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk about this channel. We're a community dedicated to respectfully remembering the victims and uncovering the facts behind true crime cases and unsolved disappearances. If you value this approach and want to support respectful storytelling, becoming a subscriber is the best way to never miss an update. If you find our work meaningful, leaving a like helps immensely in bringing these important stories to a wider audience. In the comments, we encourage you to share messages of remembrance for the victims or thoughts on why it is important to keep these cases alive. Let's keep the discussion respectful and focused on the facts. Your support is what allows me to continue this work with the care and dedication it deserves. Now, let's get into the case. The evening of Friday, May 27, 2011 began like any other for 26-year-old nursing student Giselle L. She was nearing the end of her studies at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland, California, and was completing a clinical rotation at Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in the city of Hayward, about 25 miles southeast of San Francisco. At approximately 7 p.m., Leigh was captured on the hospital's security cameras walking through a pedestrian tunnel toward the multi-level parking garage where her white 2011 Nissan Maxima was parked. She was carrying her backpack, presumably heading home after a long shift. This was the last confirmed sighting of Michelle Leigh, when Leigh failed to return home or contact her family later that night. Her brother Michael Leigh grew deeply concerned. By Saturday morning, with her phone going straight to voicemail, he reported her missing to the Hayward Police Department. The investigation began immediately at the Kaiser Medical Center. A review of the security footage from the garage revealed a critical and unsettling sequence. The camera showed Leigh's white Nissan Maxima exiting the garage shortly after 7 p.m. However, the driver's face was not visible. The vehicle's sun visor was pulled down, obscuring the view. This deliberate act suggested that whoever was driving the car did not want to be identified. The discovery of Leigh's car escalated the case from a missing persons report to a potential abduction or foul play. Hayward police, aided by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, launched a large-scale search. They found Leigh's white Maxima 2 days later, on Sunday, May 29, abandoned in a remote, unincorporated area of Alameda County near the city of Fremont, roughly 15 miles from the hospital. The car was locked. Inside, investigators found Leigh's wallet, cell phone, and her keys still in the ignition. There were no immediate signs of a violent struggle inside the vehicle, but its location in a deserted spot was highly suspicious. The most significant find was a small amount of blood on the driver's side interior. This blood would later be collected for DNA analysis. From the outset, detectives pursued multiple theories. Could this have been a carjacking or a random crime of opportunity? However, the precise timing, the driver's attempt to conceal their identity on camera, and the strategic disposal of the vehicle pointed toward a more personal motive. The investigation naturally turned to Michelle Leigh's personal life. Who would want to harm her? Detectives began interviewing her family, friends, classmates, and co-workers. They learned she was a dedicated and well-liked student with no known enemies. However, as they delved deeper into her past, a name surfaced with increasing frequency: Giselle Esteban. A woman who had been Leigh's close friend since high school, but with whom she had a complicated and reportedly strained relationship in recent years. Esteban's name would soon become the focal point of the entire investigation. As Hayward police detectives began constructing a profile of Michelle's life, the figure of Giselle Esteban quickly moved from background acquaintance to person of intense interest. Leigh's family and mutual friends described a once close friendship that had deteriorated into a toxic, one-sided rivalry fueled by Esteban's intense jealousy. The root of this jealousy was a man, Scott Marasigan, who had dated both women at different times. While Lee had moved on from the relationship years prior, Esteban had married Marasigan and had a child with him. Despite this, investigators learned that Esteban harbored a deep-seated obsessive belief that Michelle Lell and Scott Marasigan were still romantically involved, a belief that friends and Marasigan himself stated was completely false. In the months and years leading up to Lee's disappearance, Esteban's behavior had become increasingly threatening and volatile. Lee had confided in friends and family that Esteban was harassing her, sending her angry and accusatory text messages and making threatening phone calls. Lee had even sought a restraining order against Esteban, but had not followed through with the final filing. Friends described Esteban as being consumed by the idea that Lee was a threat to her marriage and family, a fixation that seemed irrational to everyone else. With this powerful motive established, detectives turned their attention to Esteban's whereabouts on the evening of May 27, 2011. They obtained security footage from various locations. Critical footage came from a Walmart store in Union City, not far from the Kaiser Hospital. The footage showed Esteban shopping in the store around the time of Leigh's disappearance. More importantly, it showed her purchasing duct tape, lighter fluid, and a car air freshener. Items that could be interpreted as potential tools for committing or concealing a crime. When questioned by police, Esteban claimed she was shopping for a camping trip. Detectives also examined Esteban's vehicle, a black SUV. While a forensic sweep did not immediately reveal definitive evidence, the focus was sharpening. The combination of a clear motive, obsessive jealousy, suspicious post-disappearance purchases, and the fact that she was in the general area created a compelling circumstantial case. However, police needed physical evidence to connect Esteban directly to Lee or her car. That evidence began to materialize from the crime lab. The blood found on the driver's side of Michelle's abandoned Nissan Maxima was analyzed. While the sample was small, it was a crucial starting point. Simultaneously, search teams, including volunteers from Liz family and the community, conducted massive ground searches in the vast hilly open spaces of Sunol Regional Wilderness, near where Liz's car was found. For months, the searches yielded nothing but frustration. The case threatened to grow cold with a strong suspect but no body and no conclusive forensic link. The pressure on investigators and the agony for Lee's family were immense. The break would come from a combination of meticulous police work and a shocking personal revelation from the suspect herself. For months after Michelle Lee's disappearance, the investigation progressed on two parallel tracks: the continued, heart-wrenching physical search for her remains, and the meticulous forensic and behavioral case building against Giselle Esteban. The lack of a body was a significant hurdle, but detectives were determined to build a case based on the evidence they had. The first major forensic link was established through DNA analysis. Crime lab technicians examined the small bloodstain found on the driver's side interior of Michelle's abandoned Nissan Maxima. The analysis confirmed that the blood belonged to Michelle Lell. This proved she had been injured inside her own car, moving the case firmly into homicide territory. The next question was, who was driving? Attention turned to evidence that might place Esteban in Lell's vehicle. During a second, more thorough search of Esteban's black SUV, forensic technicians made a crucial discovery. Using alternate light sources and meticulous collection techniques, they located a single-minute spot of blood on the underside of the passenger side sun visor in Esteban's car. This blood was submitted for DNA testing. The results were definitive. The blood matched Michelle Lell. This placed Lee inside Esteban's vehicle, directly linking Esteban to the victim after her disappearance. Confronted with this irrefutable DNA evidence during police interviews, Giselle Esteban's story began to mutate. She first denied any involvement, Then, as the evidence was presented, she offered a new bizarre account. She claimed that on the night of May 27, she had arranged to meet Michelle Lee to confront her about the alleged affair with her husband. She stated that a physical fight ensued, during which Lee was accidentally knocked unconscious. Esteban claimed she then panicked, put Lee in the trunk of her own car, and later transferred her to Lee's Nissan Maxima. She said she drove Lee's car to the remote location and abandoned it, but insisted she did not kill Lee and did not know what happened to her afterward. This confession to kidnapping and false imprisonment was a major admission, but detectives believed it was a minimized version of a murder. The investigation received another break in September 2011, nearly 4 months after Lee disappeared. A man hiking in a remote, rugged area of Sunol Regional Wilderness, a region that had been searched before, stumbled upon human remains. The Alameda County Coroner's Office confirmed through dental records that the remains were those of Michelle Lee. The cause of death was determined to be homicidal violence, though the exact method could not be determined due to the state of decomposition. The discovery of the body, in a location consistent with someone familiar with the area, Esteban had reportedly gone camping there, closed the loop for investigators. With Lee's body found, Esteban's partial confession on record, and the damning DNA evidence linking Lee to Esteban's car, the Alameda County District Attorney's Office had enough to file charges. On the 8th of March 2012, Giselle Esteban was arrested and charged with the murder of Michelle Lee. She was held without bail. The case now shifted from investigation to prosecution, with the state preparing to argue that obsessive jealousy had driven Esteban to stalk, abduct, and murder her former best friend. The trial of the people of the state of California v. Giselle Esteban began in September 2013 in an Alameda County courtroom, over 2 years after Michelle Lee's murder. The prosecution, led by Deputy District Attorney Butch Ford, built its case on a foundation of forensic evidence and motive. They presented the DNA proof that placed Michelle Lee's blood in Esteban's SUV. They showcased the Walmart surveillance footage of Esteban purchasing duct tape and lighter fluid just hours after Lee vanished. They called friends and family to testify about Esteban's years-long campaign of jealous harassment, her threats, and her irrational belief in an ongoing affair. The central pillar of the prosecution's case was Esteban's own partial confession to police. While she claimed the death was an accident during a fight, prosecutors argued this was a self-serving lie meant to reduce culpability. They contended that the purchase of supplies, the deliberate concealment of her identity on hospital video, by driving Lee's car with the visor down, and the disposal of the body in a remote wilderness area all pointed to premeditation and a cold attempt to cover up a deliberate murder. Esteban's defense team, led by attorney Andrea Auer, did not dispute that Esteban was involved in Lee's disappearance. Instead, they focused on the lack of direct evidence proving how Lee died. They embraced Esteban's police statement, arguing that the death was indeed a tragic accident that occurred during a heated confrontation between the two women. The defense claimed Esteban panicked afterward, leading to the cover-up, but that she never intended to kill Lee. This strategy aimed to convince the jury to convict on a lesser charge, such as voluntary manslaughter, rather than first-degree murder. A key part of the defense's case was attempting to undermine the prosecution's timeline and the DNA evidence's context. They suggested the blood transfer could have occurred in other ways. However, they faced the uphill battle of explaining why someone who had just been involved in an accidental death would go to Walmart for suspicious items, hide their face while driving the victim's car, and leave the victim's body in the wilderness, instead of calling for help. The trial lasted several weeks. Michelle Lee's family filled the courtroom, seeking justice. The jury heard extensive testimony about a friendship destroyed by paranoia and envy, In his closing argument, prosecutor Butch Ford told the jury, "This was not a crime of passion. It was a crime of obsession, planned and carried out with cold efficiency." The defense pleaded for the jury to see a flawed woman who made terrible decisions in a moment of panic, not a calculated killer. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On the 3rd of October 2013, they found Giselle Esteban guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict indicated they rejected the accident theory and believed the killing was willful, deliberate, and premeditated. They also found true the special circumstance of lying in wait, though that finding was later overturned on a technicality. The conviction was a decisive victory for the prosecution and a moment of profound, if painful, relief for Michelle's family. The case now moved to the sentencing phase, where Esteban would face the consequences for a murder born of jealousy. On the 7th of February 2014, Giselle Esteban returned to the Alameda County courtroom for her sentencing hearing. With the first-degree murder conviction secured, the judge's task was to impose the mandatory sentence under California law. Prior to sentencing, members of Michelle's family were given the opportunity to deliver victim impact statements. Michelle's brother, Michael Lay, spoke directly to Esteban, who sat stoically, often looking down. He described his sister as a beautiful, compassionate soul whose life and future were stolen. He detailed the family's unbearable grief, the agony of the months-long search, and the horror of her remains being found in the wilderness. "You didn't just take my sister," he said. "You took a daughter, a granddaughter, a niece, and a friend to so many." Other family members echoed this profound loss, painting a picture of a vibrant young woman on the cusp of a career dedicated to helping others, brutally erased by someone she once trusted. When given the chance to speak, Giselle Esteban offered a brief, written statement read by her attorney. She expressed regret and said she was sorry for the pain I caused, but did not directly admit to murder. Her words were met with silence from the Ellie family. Judge John Rolfson then addressed the court. He condemned Esteban's actions, noting the callousness of the crime and the extreme and ongoing emotional trauma inflicted on the Ellie family. Citing the jury's verdict and the law, he sentenced Giselle Esteban to 25 years to life in state prison. The sentence meant she would not be eligible for parole until serving a minimum of 25 years. Esteban was immediately remanded into the custody of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Giselle Esteban, now inmate WF 3977, was designated to the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Her appeals have been unsuccessful. As of this writing, she remains incarcerated, having served over a decade of her sentence. Her earliest possible parole hearing is years in the future. In the aftermath of the trial, Michelle Lee's family established the Michelle Lee Memorial Scholarship at Samuel Merritt University to support future nursing students, ensuring her passion for helping others' lives on. Her story became a cautionary tale about the destructive power of unchecked jealousy and obsession. For the Lee family, the legal resolution brought a measure of justice, but no true peace. Michelle is remembered not as a victim defined by her murder, but as a bright, caring individual whose legacy continues through the scholarship and the memories of those who loved her. The case stands as a solemn reminder of how a fractured friendship, poisoned by paranoia, can culminate in an unthinkable act of violence. As we conclude today's story, let's once again remember the lives affected. If you found this exploration meaningful and want to support respectful storytelling about real cases, please consider leaving a like. It helps more than you know. To stay updated with our deep dives into unresolved histories, hit that subscribe button, and in the comments below, feel free to share a thought in memory or why you believe remembering these stories matters. Thank you for watching and for being a part of this thoughtful community.